Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you how Donald Trump just doubled down against the NFL.
And I'm Colin Cowherd, and I'll tell you why Rick Pitino should never be allowed to coach in the NCAA again. Speak for yourself starts now.
God. Hey, we're starting with football and basketball, so we got a little bit of both here. All right, welcome to the show. We're joined today by Eric Dickerson, NFL Hall of Famer, and Jim Jackson, former NBA star. Let's start in the NFL. We'll get to college basketball shortly. But in the NFL, where this past weekend, we saw players, coaches, and owners around the league push back against President Trump's verbal assault on the national anthem protesters with a variety of pregame demonstrations organized by the teams. Well, today the president responded, escalating his attack on the league.
I think the NFL is in a box. I think they're in a really bad box. You look at what's happening with their ratings, you look at what's going, I mean, frankly, the only thing that's doing well in the NFL is the pregame, because everybody wants to see what's going on. You cannot have people disrespecting our national anthem, our flag, our country, and that's what they're doing. And in my opinion, the NFL has to change. Or you know what's going to happen? Their business is going to go to hell.
All right, Cowherd, what's your reaction to Trump's comments?
Trump says a lot of things, and a lot of them aren't true. He's a fire starter. There's some resentment with the NFL. Listen, we've been killing baseball for 20 years. I was at Dodger Stadium Monday, 46,000 on a school night. They're printing money. NBA post-Jordan lost 50% of its audience. These are called business challenges. You have a business, it's not a linear path. Amazon sold, initially they just sold movies and books, and now they're the retail giant. So this idea that, there's a roadblock, there's a little bit of a challenge for the NFL. Well, these billion-dollar contracts for 8 years, they're all going to disappear. No, they're not. The content is still above average. Boycotts work when the content's lousy. The content's still really good.
What do you think of his accusation, though, that if they need to change these protests or it is going to damage? He said go to hell. He overstates everything. But again, I think I agree with him that these protests are going to damage the league. They need to get a handle on this. I don't think it's going to be much tougher after his comments today, but I do think these protests are irritating their customer base.
Yes.
And I do think they're going to have an impact on this league, and they need to get this under control. They need to stop the protests.
I agree with that. It's not positive in terms of business. It's a challenge.
Well, for me, the issue, too, is, one, we know Donald Trump. We know the ego side. We know the controlling side from a business perspective. We know the fight he had in the USFL in '84, tried to buy a team, what was in New England in '88, and tried to buy the Buffalo Bills, okay, in 2014. It never was successful. So he wasn't a part of the group, the crew. He wasn't invited in. So you have that side of it. Also, too, Donald Trump, a lot of things are going on in regards from a business perspective. He's always able to sway attention away from what's going on. What's going on with Puerto Rico right now? You take that away. What's going on inside the White House with the leaking in the emails? Donald Trump is a master manipulator of, here, see this hand over here? But I'm doing something. I'm tickle, tickle, tickle. I'm over here. You see what I'm saying? And he's great at doing that because he's manipulating the system. Will it hurt in the short term in regards to maybe some reviews and people watching? Yes. But long term, like you said, Colin, the NFL is here to stay. The product will dictate exactly who leaves and who stays. And Donald Trump, he loves to hear himself talk.
You ever go in a room someplace and you say, the fly, like just annoying. That's all it is, annoying. The NFL could care less what Donald Trump says. Trust me, the NFL is all about making money. They're still making money. This will soon pass. I don't know when, but they're going to keep, the NFL is not going anywhere. They could care less what the president says because the NFL is the NFL. You have the 200-pound gorilla, then you have the 10 million pound gorilla. The NFL is a 10 million pound gorilla. They are going to be there. They could care less with the press. They're gonna try to say the right things because the NFL is the good old boy system. He was not allowed in the good old boy system because he's really not a good old boy.
It's interesting. You worked in the newspaper industry. It's still alive, but has lost big chunks.
Yeah.
One of their reasons was the content was available elsewhere. The reason the baseballs and the footballs survives is their content's not available. Like, college football's nice. it's not close to as good as the NFL. It's darn good, and that's why baseball survives.
I think Trump is making the point, though, that baseball used to be the king of all sports, and it no longer is. I think he's arguing that, yeah, football's not going to go away, but look, if there's a 5% drop-off from ratings, from attendance, from merchandise sales.
Let's say 15.
Yeah, that's significant, and that backs it up. And that will feel like going to hell in his mind. I just want to be clear on this. There was a very good piece written in the Washington Post 2 days ago or yesterday in response to something I wrote in the Wall Street Journal, and the guy spelled out how Pete Rozelle in the NFL put together a plan to attach the NFL to patriotism and Americana and how important the national anthem was to Pete Rozelle and the league. It was all part of a business strategy.
Yep.
We can all sit back and say, oh, this is nothing, it's just the national anthem. But it was part of a business strategy Pete Rozelle put together so the NFL could exceed Major League Baseball.
Yes.
And it did that, and it became the most powerful product on 5 different television networks. And Trump is saying, and I kind of agree, if they don't get this under control, it may back up.
Let me ask you guys this, though. This is a boycott, right? Some are boycotting. The bigger issue remains moms not wanting their kids to play. Like, we have concurrent challenge.
Yeah.
That issue, you talk to any youth football coach.
That's a real
numbers
issue.
Down. So this is not the only challenge they're facing. They got a medical science issue they're dealing with.
That's a whole different issue because, like, you know, I have a young son. My son's 5, and people ask me all the time, "Will you let him play football?" I say, "Do I want him to play? No. If he wants to play, can he play? Yes. But I want to explain to him how dangerous this game is because my mother, she hated it till the day she died. So I hate that game. That game gonna cause you problems later. I'm telling you." But still, I wanted to play. As a young kid, you want to play football.
But your issue is moms. There's a lot more moms in America than boycotters. To Louisville, where Rick Pitino was placed on unpaid administrative leave today after it was revealed this week. Yeah, he was fired, essentially. The program has been ensnared in an FBI corruption probe, involved bribes, recruits, assistant coaches, just gross. Interim University President Greg Postel addressed the scandal today.
Effective immediately, Coach Pitino has been placed on an unpaid administrative leave. Coach Pitino's employment will be reviewed at a later date. We will continue throughout this process to follow university personnel policies. Effective immediately, Vice President for Intercollegiate Athletics Tom Jurich has been placed on a paid administrative leave. The leave will continue until the Board of Trustees has an opportunity to evaluate his continued employment at or before its regularly scheduled meeting on October 18th.
All right, first, far from the first scandal during Pitino's tenure at Louisville, hardly. The coach was extorted over an affair with an equipment manager's wife. Prostitution scandal led to the NCAA vacating the school's 2013 national title. Whitlock, some have suggested Louisville deserves the death penalty. Agree?
Pat Forty, a friend of mine, tremendous sports writer, wrote a piece calling for the death penalty. This is so preposterous. If there's going to be a death penalty, it needs to be to amateurism. Give amateurism the death penalty, then you have a chance at creating a system free of a lot of this corruption. As long as amateurism is in place, as long as this bogus NCAA enforces amateurism, you can give Louisville the death penalty, and 10 years from now, you'll be giving someone else the death penalty. You can get rid of Art Browse, and a few years later, it's going to be the next coach. And we can call out Rick Pitino and all these guys, and they're the bad guys. It's the system that's bad, not the individuals.
All right. Coach K never had an affair in a brothel.
No.
If
All right, now, what do we... Now, serious, honest to goodness, you don't know a damn thing about Coach K's private life. I don't know anything about yours. Okay. I don't know anything about Eric Dickerson's. I don't know anything about Jim Jackson.
We got
that's
the death
a bogus
penalty, I know that.
Brothel. There's no brothel at Duke.
There's no brothel at Louisville. They had some strippers come to the dorm. And that happens at most college campuses.
Look, first of all, the death penalty should have never happened. At my school, got the death penalty, only death penalty ever. If anybody should have got the death penalty, it should have been Penn State for what went on there, if you want to say death penalty. To me, the NCAA are the biggest crooks of all because they say, okay, we can sell your jersey, we can sell your name. We can sell your likeness, but you can't make any money. You have a scholarship, you get free boarding, and that's it. But we can make tens of millions of dollars. I think it's wrong. Do they deserve the death penalty? No. And I heard you say it this morning. Or they don't cheat. Alabama doesn't cheat. Duke doesn't cheat. Man, look, all of them cheat. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Trust me. You just don't see them cheating. They haven't got caught cheating, but all of them cheat. You want to call it cheating. And it's not cheating.
Back when newspapers actually did reporting, the newspaper, the Final Four was in New Orleans. The Times-Picayune did a long expose exposing all the corruption at Duke and the Duke basketball program. Look it up. It's on the internet. It was never objected to. Nothing.
Nothing. That's the big school. The
again,
big school,
all of them. It's like being a little bit pregnant. You know, some people are just showing a little more.
You know what's going to happen with this, because this is not about the NCAA per se. FBI investigated this. The FBI is involved. So the key component here is that we're scratching the surface in regards to the bigger schools, also the financial managers that are going to come out, also the bigger shoe companies. This thing right now is going to create a firestorm. I think that the NCAA now is going to have to recalibrate itself on how it operates. Once AAU kind of took off in regards to the influence they had on young people, that's when the shoe companies, that's when the agents really came in and took over where high school coaches used to be. And college coaches, whether we believe it or not, the big programs, the small programs, the big boys try to keep themselves arm's distance away, but their assistant coaches are under a mandate and they know exactly what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. Even if the head coach is in the other room, they understand and they know what's happening.
And the head coach knows. He might not want to know all of it, but he knows what's going on.
Well, listen, the FBI, the reason why the FBI is involved is because the game has changed. The financial advisor is now more important than the agent. And because there's more money to be made on young players off the court because the NBA contracts are set up and guaranteed for rookies.
Also, too, the FBI was doing an internal investigation on another matter. They had an informant. This informant said, hey, listen, I got some other news about what's going on in college basketball. They inserted that informant into these meetings, inserted their own informants in there, and got all this data. So sometimes it's not what you do to get caught, it's somebody else that opens that door.
Everybody always says everybody cheats on their taxes. It's not true. Everybody cheats on their wife. It's not true. Gonzaga doesn't have a brothel on their campus, and they never will.
Louisville doesn't have a brothel on their campus.
Gonzaga's not winning national championships either.
Right.
Well, they're pretty darn good.
We didn't have a brothel.
Huh?
We didn't have a brothel.
I know we didn't.
Everybody had a
No
Corvette.
one had a brothel. But listen, strippers and athletes and college campuses and fraternities and everybody else. Look, man, having participated at a small level, Eric at the highest level, Jim at the highest level of college athletics, Colin, these people, we're not speculating. You know, there's different ways to cheat. There's more ethical ways to cheat. Oh, I can get your mother a job at this
that's
store
what I'm
or
saying.
that school. That's still cheating.
That's cheating.
Okay.
And if Under Armour sets your mom up with an AAU team and all that other stuff to get you to one team,
FedEx gets you down
there's
there.
all different kinds of
If you are
ways.
coaching college kids and you have an affair with a staff member's wife, bye-bye.
I'm sure that's the only time that's ever happened.
I'm shocked.
Then you know what?
Men don't have affairs.
Ever.
Again, but this is the classic. Well, everybody does. Everybody
Look at the
does
divorce rate.
By the way, do you guys think it was a coincidence that Pitino suddenly, when Calipari arrived, became the #2 program in the state? USC basketball, #2 program in town. Oklahoma State, Auburn, #2. Isn't it funny that the 4 programs that were caught were all chasing in a competitive industry the better program in the state?
Well, but Louisville always been #2 to Kentucky. They've always been #2 to Kentucky.
Yeah, but when Calipari got there and started getting all the headlines, Louisville radio
Adolph Rupp was in Kentucky.
No, I'm talking now.
I don't understand. Tubby, before that, I can't recall the guy's name. Joe B. Hall. Joe B. Hall, whatever.
When Denny Crum was in Louisville.
Denny Crum, Louisville, that's been going on.
But in the world we live in now, Calipari moved into that state, and since he has, Pitino's program has had all sorts of issues.
Calipari's played it all by the rules, too. He does it, I mean, he's the same.
I haven't seen any strippers on that campus.
He got wings.
Just wait.
He got wings.
Wow. All right, welcome back. Jim Jackson is back. We're joined now by Fox college football analyst Joel Klatt. Let's return to Louisville, where Rick Pitino was placed on unpaid administrative leave today after it was revealed that the program had been ensnared in the FBI corruption probe. But that probe doesn't end with Louisville. Several other schools are also being investigated by the FBI. Meanwhile, the NCAA has done exactly nothing to stop the corruption. Cowherd, who's more to blame for the scandal, the schools or the NCAA?
Schools. NCAA can't stop cheating, just like churches can't stop infidelity. Cheating's always a choice in marriages, in sports, on Wall Street. So it's up to Goldman Sachs or Lehman Brothers. You could say everybody's got inside information on Wall Street. All right, but it's up to you to monitor it as closely as you can to find it quickly, eradicate it, get it out of the building. But the NCAA can't stop cheating.
We have phrased the question somewhat incorrectly because the schools, the NCAA serves the schools. The school presidents are who have empowered the NCAA or whatever. So I blame the school presidents. It's their system. It's their corrupt system. And so to me, it's like, and again, we can vilify Art Browse, we can vilify Rick Pitino, we can vilify all these coaches. Roy Williams, a very dear friend of mine, he's been vilified. He's a great man. They've got some academic scandal in North Carolina. It's the system. If any of the four of us go into prison, despite our best efforts, we're going to be changed people. And there's going to be some corruption that's going to leak out on us, and we're going to do some things to survive in prison that we wouldn't do out here. We're dropping people into a corrupt system. Amateurism is outdated. It's lived long past its existence. We're in America. America is a place that has a constitution that can be tweaked and refined and changed and improved as situations arise and as we evolve as a country. Why the NCAA and amateurism can't evolve inside of I don't know. Why we're wedded to this system, I don't get it.
I was just going to talk about what I think amateurism creates, because I agree with you. I think the problem is amateurism. I think the problem is the presidents empowering the NCAA. The problem is the NCAA. So this amateurism creates what I deem as a black market. Okay, when you say that you have to be an amateur, now all of a sudden everything under that has to behave in the shadows. And what ends up happening is a very simplistic, capitalist type of economy. You have supply, you have demand. The commodity in this case is the college basketball player and the five-star recruit coming out of the AAUs and the high school ranks. And guess what? There is a limited number of those. So the supply is limited, the demand is very high, and there's a lot of value there. And what ends up happening in the sport of basketball, and Jim, you can speak to this obviously very well, there's only 1 year that these investors have to wait, and keep in mind, these are investors, that these investors have to wait in order to start getting a return on their investment. The schools, you know they're going to be a great basketball team because all you need is one great player to be a very good basketball team. And so all of a sudden, you get this whole system that is created to behave as a commodity. The FBI is behaving like they're a commodity. Remember now, they're not investigating this as a crime unless they thought that these kids were commodities. They are commodities, and they're being treated as such.
Two things to me stand out. When you two guys were in school back in 1950s, you know, back then, since you're older. 57.
Yeah.
Scholarship for play was worth it.
Yes.
Once the money got involved in the NCAA, now the scales tilted because it wasn't a balance. The NCAA never adjusted to that atmosphere in regards to money coming in and how it reflects back to the student athletes. So to me, the NCAA has their hand in the pot, but also the school has their hand, because anytime a coach becomes more prevalent than the president, becomes the highest paid, maybe the highest paid state official in that state, you're going to have an issue. So both have their hands in the pot. Both are muddy. Both are dirty. Will you ever get away with corruption? We can have the perfect system. We have an economic system in the United States right now that's based on the economy and what you can sell, what you can buy, but yet we still have corruption. There's going to be some weeds in, I think, the garden, so to speak. If you have a perfect system where guys get paid, it's always going to be somebody trying to do something else. But we can clean up the mess in which we're at right now, but it starts when both have to take responsibility for where we've come from and where we're at right now.
This is where I get very defensive and very emotional and very angry. I just want to go back to this system created by these college presidents. A group of primarily liberals have created a system where young men are exploited for the financial benefit of the institutions, the schools, and for the NCAA. Coaches now, Jim, what you're talking about, Jim Harbaugh's making close to $10 million a year. Bo Schembechler probably never made more than $150,000, $200,000 at Michigan. We think all this television money and all these games over every day of the week and all these extra games, we used to play 11 games or 10 games. Now teams are playing 13, 14 games. We've done all of this for the benefit of money, 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 and the greed of the school presidents and everybody else, and we haven't shared the financial wealth with the athletes. And we wonder why NFL and NBA athletes come into their leagues with a chip on their shoulder because they felt like they just got exploited by a college system, and the whole mentality carries over. And so now everybody's a victim. And so when I start talking about this system and the corruption it unleashes in our society and the media's refusal to address it, and we're talking about killing Louisville and Rick Pitino, and no one's talking about killing this corrupt system that exploits black kids more than white kids, because in football and basketball, that's where all the money's made, and we know who's out on the field, and it's all, they take all that money and then they go apply it to other sports that don't have anything to do with it. But no one wants to talk about these liberal presidents who set it up. It's Jerry Jones and the football people, the conservatives. They're the bad people. The good people are the liberal school presidents. They're the great people.
Welcome back. Eric Dickerson here, now joined by Fox NFL analyst Greg Jennings. Let's return to President Trump, who took aim at the NFL again today, saying the business is, quote, going to hell, and that the NFL has to change its national anthem policy. We saw last Sunday how Trump's attack on the NFL united the league in protest, and even before these comments, two teams have called for fans to join the demonstrations. Whitlock, what effect will these new comments from Trump have on this weekend's game?
I think a lot of people started out this week hoping that last weekend was the end of it. I had a conversation with Peter King of Sports Illustrated, and he was hoping, like, okay, we're going to move on and get back to football. I think today pretty much indicates we're not going to move on and get back to football. I think that Thursday night's game is going to be interesting, whether Aaron Rodgers can talk everybody into locking arms or whatever in the stands. But I think when we get to Sunday, I think we're going to see a replay of last Sunday. A lot of guys are going to want to continue their wrestling match with President Trump.
Yeah, I think Jim Jackson nailed it in the first segment. Trump wants chaos. Puerto Rico's situation is devastating. He's been late on that. You look at the North Korea situation, you got the leaks in the White House. This is the classic Donald Trump move. He is a fire starter. He is a manipulator. This is what he does.
I think Kaepernick started the fire, though. I think Donald Trump has exploited it, but I think Kaepernick started the fire.
Okay, so he's exploitive. Yeah. But I mean, Trump has found something that can divert attention away from a White House in utter chaos for 9 months, and the NFL is the #1 show on TV networks. Trump knows TV. He knows real estate, and he knows TV. I'm not sure if he knows government policy, but he knows those two things. And by the way, the desperate media, they always lap this stuff up. They don't have the discipline to say no.
I blame the media more than almost anybody, more than Kaepernick or Trump.
I think the big thing is that we've kind of lost focus on what Kaepernick was trying to say, in a sense that he wasn't saying I'm disrespecting the flag, I'm not a patriot, I don't love the United States. It's about the injustice that's went on for 400 years.
We're going to get to that. What do you think is going to happen this weekend?
But I'm gonna get to that.
All right.
What do I think is going to happen is that I think that, is everybody going to lock arms? No, I don't think that's going to happen. Will this issue keep going on? Yes, because, the worst thing that could happen for Donald Trump is having a cell phone, having Twitter. So as he talks and as he runs his mouth, for sure it's going to keep, because he's going to say, I guarantee it's going to be something even crazier than he said a couple of days ago.
Got a former Packer here.
Yeah, the impact, he's adding fuel to the fire. Simply put, if we thought last week was something. Him making more comments only promotes and really incentivizes everyone in this league to continue to stand together against our president, which goes to your point of the focus of what Colin Kaepernick was about. I'm interested to see what takes place in Green Bay because I believe that those fans, they love their Packers. It's a very tight community. They're the only team in major sports, the 4 major sports, publicly owned. They will embrace what their team, all that they have, is trying to get done because it's not about the protest, it's about unity, and that's what they're vocalizing, that's what they're putting out there and projecting, and they're using Aaron Rodgers. And this is why when I look at Tomlin, we talked about this yesterday, and how he tried to give his team pretty much the keys. This is how you do it. You use your quarterback. Your quarterback is on your side. You're literally lockstep with them. You're walking parallel together. And I believe that the fans are going to be in agreement with it.
Do you think, one of the questions I have about Green Bay is like the fan base there is going to be like 98% white. Is that going to help them have a unified message in the stadium?
The one thing you have to understand, being from the Midwest, it's not solely about race. It's not solely about your skin color. These are genuine people. These are hardworking Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesotans, Illinois, just hardworking Midwest people who.
Indiana.
Yeah, I skipped your Indiana, Ball State. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
But it's all about unity. They don't see color like everyone else. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Right. No, I got
don't get me wrong. They have their issues.
Yes.
But they just want to be in agreement and be in unison. That's what I'm interested to see.
When you put that uniform on in Green Bay, you know, you may not like the guy next to you, but if he plays for the Packers, when they put that uniform on, everybody's on the same team.
Absolutely.
That's the greatest thing about sports. All of a sudden, you love the guy that you hated because of his color, but he plays for my team. I love him now.
Well, they call it flyover country. There is a sense that America's ignoring us. So if you were going to do this, I think the Midwest would be the great place to start.
We need to remember there were a bunch of cities that weren't a part of this last year. You know, the NFL home and road. So this week, cities that weren't involved, Baltimore, Cleveland, Dallas, Houston, Tampa Bay, Denver, Seattle, Kansas City, Atlanta. I think I've heard that in Atlanta, they're going to try to follow Green Bay's lead and get the fans all to do this unified approach. I think, again, I like that solution, but I just don't think it's going to play in all these cities.
To your point, the smallest market in professional sports, Green Bay, Wisconsin, this is all they have.
Yes.
They have such a unique bond with their players and how they interact with those players within that community. It's almost like they are a part of the organization already.
It's almost like college
most
now.
of them are.
Like
absolutely.
College now.
All right, to the guy who started all the controversy over the national anthem protest, Colin Kaepernick. The former quarterback is still without a job and has largely been overshadowed by the most recent round of controversy. Cowherd, are the ongoing protests hurting Kaepernick's chances of getting signed?
Well, it's really interesting. You could say, yes, he's kerosene. Or you could say, if a team signs him with the ongoing protests, suddenly the media now leans in the NFL's favor and they get more favorable coverage. I mean, we all know you can manipulate the media.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in your opinion because my first takeaway is, oh, he's kerosene. And then I think, well, these protests now are bigger than Kaepernick. They've overwhelmed the Kaepernick story.
They're certainly bigger than Kaepernick. It'll be interesting what the NFL does here. I could see them thinking, perhaps wrongly, if we sign Kaepernick, that'll be a sign of peace. That'll calm our players
down. That's what I'm saying.
And so I could see somebody, a Joe Lockhart, who works with Roger Goodell, who's from, Democratic politics side of things. We used to work with Bill Clinton. I could see him talking the NFL into that position. We should sign Kaepernick. But then you have the issue of, I'm telling you, Kaepernick, to me, has always wanted this leverage. And so it's going to be, what's he going to sign for? If I'm the guy that brings peace and you're bringing me in as a backup quarterback, I want 10, 12, 15 million bucks to bring you this piece and to be your backup quarterback. You're not going to get him for the NFL minimum. And so, look, I think there will be some in the league because, again, I think most of the owners agree with Donald Trump. And I think there'll be some owners in the league that'll be like, no, we need to stay away from Kaepernick. He's poisoned. He started all this. But I kind of think someone's going to talk the NFL into overpaying for this guy.
That's what I
and let him be the peace treaty.
I definitely think that it hurts. The ongoing protest hurts Colin Kaepernick. And it is unfair because he is not currently on any roster and these protests are still taking place. So regardless if Kaepernick is in a locker room or obviously with him not being within a locker room, they're still going to take place because it's ultimately not about Colin Kaepernick. Was he the one to provoke it? Absolutely. Rightfully so, good for him. But it's greater than Kaepernick, and I think that this continues whether he's in the league or out of the league, and he's been treated unfairly, bottom line.
Most definitely he should be playing. There's no doubt when you look around the quarterbacks in the National Football League. But if you're an owner, do you want that? Say if you own a football team, imagine the spotlight that it's going to bring to your football team. Is it going to be a distraction? Is he still going to kneel? Is he going to sit? Is he going to stand? That's going to be the questions. I just feel like that I wish they would kind of just get it on. Let's do it. Let's do what we're going to do and just get it over with. If we're going to sign him, sign him.
You know who should sign him? The San Diego Chargers. Because I'm just telling you, not to fill up their stadium. They can't fill up their stadium regardless. Whoever signs Kaepernick is potentially facing a boycott and their attendance may be hurt. Send him to a team that it doesn't matter. The San Diego Chargers. Send him back to San Francisco. They're not going to fill up their stadium one way or the other. But if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs or some team that has good attendance, Kaepernick's high risk. You're going to have a protest on your hands and some fans staying away from your game.
Problem is, if you send him to San Diego, there's no team. They're up in the
The L.A. Chargers.
Kaepernick will be like, where are the players? Down here in San Diego.
Remember Michael Sam, the player, was the Missouri? Yeah. And the St. Louis Rams had the last pick of the draft, and they end up taking Michael Sam. They end up taking Michael Sam. If my
wasn't the last pick. He wasn't Mr. Irrelevant, but they took him in the last round.
They end up taking Michael Sam, and it was like, what team is going to take Michael Sam because of his stance on homosexuality being wide open, being open about it? There will be a team that eventually, to your point, that comes around and says, you know what? It won't hurt us. It's already taken place. No one's going to stop. Because it's like they can't stop now. Because you're danged if you do, danged if you don't.
An individual team, though, could face a boycott in their individual city, fans not showing up. Again, that's why I think the L.A. Chargers, perfect place. San Francisco 49ers, they can't fill their stadium regardless. So send Kaepernick there. If I'm a team that's got good attendance, I'm afraid of Kaepernick.